The colony ship Aurora drifted through the endless dark. Its silver body reflected the faint light of distant stars. For weeks, the ship had traveled in silence, engines humming, carrying 200 people on a long journey toward a new settlement. Inside the command deck, Captain Myra sat in her chair. She was a woman of steady voice and calm eyes, trusted by her crew even when dangers rose in the void. Around her, screens showed empty space. No planets nearby. No stations. Nothing but blackness stretching forever. The crew had fallen into routine shifts, reports, and maintenance. It was the quiet of space travel. But then the quiet broke. "Captain," said Ryan, the ship's engineer, looking up from his console. "I'm getting something strange on the receiver." Myra turned her head. "A transmission?" "Yes," Ryan said. His brow furrowed as he adjusted the controls. "It's faint. Weak. But it's repeating." The room grew still. A transmission out here was unusual. No known colonies were in the sector, no stations or patrol routes. Myra stood and stepped closer. "Put it through," she ordered. The speakers cracked, hissing with static. Then a sound slipped out, thin, soft, and full of sorrow. It was the voice of a child. "Help me," the voice whispered. Then a pause. Then again, "Help me." The words repeated. A cry in the darkness, fragile and desperate. The crew exchanged uneasy looks. A child's voice in the middle of nowhere made no sense. "Could be interference," said one officer. "A trick of the signal." "No," Ryan answered. "This is real. Human voice. Young. Not more than 10 years old." Myra felt her chest tighten. She listened again, letting the repeated cry echo in her ears. There was no laughter, no other words. Just need. Just the sound of a soul afraid and alone. She turned to Lyra, the ship's medic. "What do you think?" Lyra shook her head slowly. "No child should be out here. If that voice is real, someone is alive and calling us." Another officer spoke sharply. "Or it's bait. Could be a trap. Pirates use false signals." "Pirates don't use children," Ryan muttered. Myra raised her hand, silencing them. Her mind turned over the choices. Their mission was clear: deliver colonists to their new world. They were not to wander off course. Every detour meant fuel lost and risk taken. But in her heart, Myra knew she could not ignore a child's cry in the void. "Trace the signal," Myra ordered. Ryan's fingers flew across the console. The screen filled with lines and data. "It's coming from Sector 9, coordinates already set. Not far. Less than 2 days' travel at full burn." The crew stirred uneasily. One officer leaned close to Myra. "Captain, this is not wise. We have no record of settlements there. Nothing on the charts. It could be dangerous." Myra looked at the officer with calm eyes. "And if it is a real child, would you leave them to die?" The question silenced him. Myra straightened her shoulders. "Set course for the signal. Full burn." The engines of Aurora roared, and the great ship shifted its path toward the unknown. The first day passed with tension hanging in the air. The crew spoke in low voices, wondering about the voice. Some whispered it was a ghost, an echo of the past caught in the waves of space. Others said it had to be a lost survivor, someone from a forgotten shipwreck. But every time the voice played again, all doubts fell quiet. It was not the voice of a ghost or trick. It was too raw, too human. The sound of a child who had not given up. That night, Myra stood at the viewing window. Stars glimmered like cold sparks in the black. She thought of her own younger years on Earth, before she ever left for the stars. She remembered the sound of children playing in the streets. She remembered laughter, warmth, life. Out here, so far from home, the cry of a child felt sharper, like a blade cutting through the dark. Ryan approached quietly. "You can't sleep either." Myra shook her head. "No, I keep hearing it. That voice." Ryan leaned on the railing. "Do you think it's real?" "Yes," Myra said simply. "I do. And even if it is not, we must follow. It is what makes us human, Ryan. To listen. To care. If we forget that, then what are we?" Ryan gave a small smile. "That's why you're captain." By the second day, the signal grew stronger. The child's words were clearer, no longer faint. "Help me. Please help me." Lyra studied the sound carefully. No signs of looping error. This isn't just a recording. The pauses change slightly. Breathing changes. This is live. Then someone is still alive, Myra said firmly. At last, the scanners picked up the source. A planet appeared ahead, dark and green, wrapped in stormy clouds. It was not on any star map. The crew leaned over their stations as data poured in. "Atmosphere is stable," one officer reported. "Oxygen, nitrogen mix. Breathable. Surface is forest," another added. "Dense trees. No cities. No settlements. Life signs scattered, but hard to read." The signal pulsed again, stronger now. The child's voice seemed to echo directly from the planet. Myra stood tall, hands behind her back. Her decision was made before anyone could question it. "We are going down," she said. Some faces showed relief. Others showed worry. But no one argued. The captain's word was final. The landing team was chosen: Myra herself, Ryan, and Lyra, along with 2 security officers. They would take a shuttle, leaving Aurora in orbit. As they prepared, Myra spoke to her crew on the deck. "We do not know what waits for us. But we know this: a child is calling. We will answer. That is who we are." The shuttle engines flared, and the small craft detached from the ship. It dipped into the clouds of the unknown world, into the wilderness below. Through the storm, through the thick clouds, the voice of the child followed them, repeating like a heartbeat. "Help me! Help me!" And so their descent began, into a world no human had seen, guided by the cry in the wilderness. The shuttle cut through the storm, its hull shaking as thunder rolled across the sky. Captain Myra sat in the front, hands steady on the controls. Around her, the crew kept silent, eyes fixed on the screens. Green clouds swirled outside, lit by flashes of lightning. "Altitude dropping," Ryan said, watching his console. "We're breaking through." The shuttle burst out of the storm, and the planet spread below them. Endless forests stretched in every direction, an ocean of trees with dark canopies. Valleys and rivers cut across the land, glimmering faintly in the light of a pale sun. The sight was beautiful, but heavy too. The forest looked alive in a way that unsettled them, as if it breathed. "Scanners picking up movement," said one of the security officers. "But nothing clear. Too much interference." Myra nodded. "We'll land close to the signal. Then we move on foot." The shuttle descended, brushing past treetops before settling in a small clearing. Engines roared one last time, then fell quiet. The ramp lowered, and a rush of warm air swept inside. The smell of earth, damp wood, and moss filled the cabin. Myra stepped out first. Her boots sank into soft soil. Around her rose towering trees with trunks so wide 10 people could not encircle them. Their leaves were dark and thick, hiding most of the sky. No birds called. No insects hummed. It was silence, deep and heavy, broken only by the sound of their steps. The crew followed, spreading out carefully. "Feels wrong," Lyra whispered, adjusting her pack. "A forest this size should be alive with sound. But it's quiet. Too quiet." Ryan crouched to study the ground. Roots twisted everywhere, thick as ropes. These trees are ancient, he said softly. Older than anything I've seen. The ground itself feels strange. Myra scanned the path ahead. Stay sharp. We follow the signal. The child's voice was faint, carried through their comm units. It repeated as before, soft and fragile. Help me. Help me. They walked deeper into the forest, leaving the shuttle behind. The path twisted between roots and low branches. The forest pressed close, shadows moving across their faces. The silence became louder the farther they went. Even the wind seemed missing, as if the trees blocked all breath of air. After an hour of walking, they found something strange. In the shadow of a massive tree lay broken metal, half buried in soil and moss. Ryan knelt and brushed the dirt away. The dull surface of a crash pod appeared. Its sides were torn, marked with deep scratches. Time had rusted the edges, but some parts still held their shape. This is human, Ryan said. At least, it was once. But no record shows a crash here. Myra studied the pod with narrowed eyes. How long? Hard to tell, Ryan replied. Years. Maybe decades. Inside the broken shell, seats hung loose, wires dangled, and panels lay shattered. There was no sign of bodies. Only claw marks covered the walls, long and deep. One of the security officers ran his hand over them. Something tried to get in. Or maybe something tried to get out. Lyra shivered. A child surviving this? Impossible. But the signal grew louder. Help me. Please. Myra turned her gaze to the forest beyond. The cry was pulling them forward. Let's keep moving, she said. The forest grew denser, branches clawing down, roots twisting like traps beneath their feet. The crew moved slowly, careful not to trip or fall. The silence pressed heavier with every step. Then the voice shifted. It was no longer distant. It was near. Help me. Everyone froze. The words seemed to float just ahead. Myra raised her hand. Stay close. They moved as one, stepping into a clearing. There, among the roots of a giant tree, sat a small figure. It was a girl. She looked no older than 10. Her hair was long and tangled, her skin pale, but her eyes shone faintly, almost glowing in the shadows. She sat with her arms wrapped around her knees, staring at them without fear. Myra's breath caught. Against all reason, the cry in the wilderness had a face. The girl tilted her head. You came, she said softly. Her voice was the same as the signal. Lyra stepped forward slowly. Are you hurt, child? Are you alone? The girl shook her head. Not hurt. Not alone. The forest is with me. The words sent a chill through the crew. Myra crouched, keeping her voice calm. What's your name? Anna, the girl answered. Ryan frowned. How long have you been here, Anna? Anna looked down, as if searching for the answer in the roots at her feet. Always, she whispered. Lyra reached into her pack and pulled out a food ration. She held it out carefully. Here, take this. You must be hungry. But Anna did not move. She only shook her head. The forest feeds me. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Myra stood slowly. We're going to take you somewhere safe, Anna. Somewhere away from this place. At her words, the forest seemed to change. The trees creaked, branches groaning as if moved by an unseen hand. The air grew heavier. Anna looked up, her strange eyes shining brighter. She whispered, It doesn't like strangers. A deep sound rolled through the ground, like a growl beneath their feet. The crew instinctively drew closer together. What was that? One officer muttered. Ryan scanned his device. Movement. Around us. But nothing clear. Myra's voice was sharp. Stay ready. We're leaving. Back to the shuttle. They tried to retrace their path, but the forest had shifted. Where they had walked before was now blocked by thick walls of roots. Paths twisted in new directions, closing behind them. The silence was gone now. Instead came faint rustling, like whispers in the leaves. The girl walked calmly among them, unafraid. Her small voice broke the heavy air. The forest does not want you here. Myra's hand tightened on her weapon. She glanced at her crew. Then we move faster. The cry of the wilderness was no longer a signal in their ears. It was alive all around them, and it was watching. The crew moved through the twisting forest with Anna walking between them. Her bare feet made no sound as she stepped over roots and stones. The others stumbled often, their boots sinking in soft earth, branches scratching their arms. Captain Myra kept her eyes forward, but her thoughts stayed on the girl. She looked human, yet something about her felt different. Those glowing eyes, that calm voice, it was not the way a lost child should behave. Ryan walked at Myra's side, whispering low so Anna would not hear. She can't have survived here alone. Not for years. The forest would have killed her. Maybe she didn't survive alone, Myra said quietly. Maybe she survived with it. Lyra, walking just behind Anna, tried to speak gently. Anna, where are your parents? Anna looked at her with calm eyes. They are gone. The forest took them back. Lyra's heart sank. She asked no more. They pressed deeper into the woods. The silence grew heavier. It was as if the forest leaned closer, listening. After some time, the crew stopped to rest near a fallen log. They drank water, checked their gear, and watched the shadows around them. Anna sat apart, on a root shaped like a chair. She looked at the trees as though speaking to them without words. Myra approached her slowly. Anna, how long have you been here? Anna touched the bark of the root with her small hand. Always. Since I was little. The forest found me when I cried. It kept me safe. Myra crouched, keeping her tone soft. Safe? How? Anna tilted her head. It gave me food. Water. Shelter. It speaks to me. The words sent unease through the crew. Myra studied her closely. Anna's skin looked pale, but strong. Her hair was messy, but not thin with hunger. She looked as though the forest itself had raised her. Do you want to leave this place? Myra asked. Anna was silent for a long moment. Her glowing eyes turned back to the trees. I don't know. If I leave, the forest will be angry. It does not like to lose things it has claimed. The sound of her words made the silence feel colder. Later, as they set up a small camp to rest before moving on, something happened that none of them forgot. Shadows moved at the edge of the clearing. At first, they looked like shifting branches. But then they pulled away from the trees, forming into shapes. Creatures made of darkness, tall and thin, stepped out. Their forms bent and swayed as though made of smoke. Their eyes glimmered faintly, like pale fireflies. The security officers raised their weapons. Captain movement. Hold your fire, Myra ordered sharply. She watched the creatures circle, never stepping fully into the light. They stayed just beyond reach, watching. Waiting. Anna did not move. She sat calmly, eyes on the shadows. Then, softly, she began to hum. It was not a song of joy. It was low and slow, like the wind through hollow wood. The shadow creatures froze. Their heads tilted, as though listening. Slowly, one by one, they slipped back into the trees, fading until the forest was silent again. The crew stared, breath held. Ryan whispered, she made them go away. Lyra looked at Anna with wide eyes. That song, it calmed them. Myra's gaze hardened. She felt both awe and unease. A small child had power here, power that humans could not understand. Anna looked back at them. The forest was only warning you. It does not want you here. That night, while the others rested uneasily, Myra stayed awake. She sat near the fire, watching Anna sleep curled against the roots. Her small face looked peaceful, but her faintly glowing eyes flickered even in dreams. Ryan sat beside Myra, his voice low. "Captain, we can't ignore this. She's tied to this place somehow. Maybe even created by it." Myra shook her head. "She's human. Look at her. Listen to her voice. She is human." "Part human, maybe," Ryan said carefully. "But no normal child survives alone in a wilderness like this. Something made her different." Myra stared into the flames. "Whatever she is, she's a child. And we don't leave children behind." Ryan sighed but said no more. The next morning, they continued. The forest shifted again, closing paths and opening new ones. It was like walking through a maze that moved as they traveled. Anna led them now, her small steps steady. She seemed to know where to go, though no signs marked the way. As they walked, Lyra asked her gently, "Anna, why did you call for help? Why did you send your voice into space?" Anna stopped. Her eyes shimmered faintly in the dim light. "I was lonely. The forest is always with me, but it is not like me. It does not laugh. It does not sing. I wanted someone to come. I wanted people." Her small voice carried sadness that pulled at their hearts. Myra placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone anymore, Anna. We are here." Anna looked at her, eyes wide, as though trying to believe it. By midday, they reached another strange place. A wide circle lay in the middle of the forest, cleared of trees, the ground bare except for stone pillars covered in vines. Ryan walked among them, running his hand over the carvings. "These are not natural. They're old. Very old." The carvings showed figures of humans standing among trees. Some raised their hands in peace. Others were shown fighting creatures that looked like shadows. Myra studied the symbols. "It's like a story. Humans came here before. Maybe long ago." Anna stood in the center, touching the stones. "The forest remembers. It remembers everyone who has walked here." Her words sent a shiver through the crew. Before anyone could speak further, the air grew colder. The forest around the circle darkened, shadows moving again at the edge of sight. Anna turned, her small face calm. "It is watching us. It does not trust you." Myra stepped forward, her voice steady. "Then we'll earn its trust. We didn't come to harm. We came because we heard your cry." Anna's glowing eyes softened. She whispered, "Then maybe it will let you leave." But her words carried no promise. The forest stood silent, heavy, and alive, and the crew knew their journey into its heart was far from over. Night fell quickly over the wilderness. The trees blocked the last light of the pale sun, and the forest became a sea of shadows. The crew set up a small camp in the circle of old stones. A fire flickered in the middle, its glow pushing back the darkness. Captain Myra sat close to the flames, her eyes on the forest. The air felt too still, too heavy. Even the fire seemed to burn with a hushed voice, as if it too feared to be loud here. Ryan adjusted the scanner, frowning. "Strange readings," he said. "Movement all around, but nothing clear. It's like the shadows themselves are alive." The two security officers checked their weapons. Lyra unpacked a medkit and kept close to Anna, who sat quietly near the stones. Anna looked calm, her glowing eyes reflecting the fire. She seemed untouched by fear, unlike the crew who shifted uneasily. Myra leaned closer to her. "Anna, is the forest angry at us?" Anna shook her head slowly. Not angry. Curious. Watching. But when the dark things come, you must stay in the light. The warning made Myra's stomach tighten. She looked to Ryan, who gave a small nod. They all stayed near the fire, keeping their backs to one another. The first attack came without sound. One of the officers spotted a shadow moving at the edge of the clearing. It slid forward, tall and thin, eyes glowing faintly. He raised his weapon, but before he could fire, another shadow dropped from the branches above. Down! Myra shouted. The shadow lunged, its form twisting like smoke. The officer fired, the blast of light cutting through the creature. It shrieked without voice, its shape tearing apart before melting back into the dark. More came. From every side, the shadows closed in. They slipped between trees, climbed the stones, and reached toward the fire. The crew fired again and again, light from their weapons tearing through the shapes. Each creature fell apart when struck, but more took its place. The fire flickered as if struggling to breathe. The circle grew smaller as the shadows pressed in. Hold the line! Myra shouted, standing firm. Amid the chaos, Anna rose to her feet. She did not run, did not hide. Instead, she began to sing. Her voice was soft but carried across the clearing. It was the same strange melody from before, low and hollow, like the whisper of wind through empty branches. The shadows froze. One by one, they stopped moving. Their heads tilted toward Anna, glowing eyes fixed on her. Slowly, like smoke fading into the night, they slipped back into the forest, leaving only silence. The crew stood frozen, weapons still raised. The only sound was Anna's song, and then even that faded as she fell silent. The forest was still again. Lyra rushed to Anna, kneeling beside her. Are you hurt? Anna shook her head, calm as ever. They listen to me. They do not harm me. Myra lowered her weapon, breathing hard. But they attack us. Anna looked at her. Because you do not belong here. The forest does not want strangers. The crew gathered around the fire, shaken. Ryan sat heavily on a stone, wiping sweat from his brow. Captain, this is worse than we thought. These creatures aren't animals. They're part of the forest. And he nodded toward Anna. She's connected to it. Myra looked at the child. Anna, if the forest listens to you, can you make it let us go? Anna lowered her eyes. Maybe. But it does not like to let go of what it claims. The words settled over them like a weight. Hours passed, but no one slept. The fire burned low, casting long shadows on the stone pillars. The forest pressed close, silent but waiting. Near dawn, Ryan spoke in a tired voice. Captain, we can't stay here. If we wait, those things will return. Myra nodded. We move at first light. When the pale sun rose, they packed quickly. The forest around them was damp and cold, mist drifting between the trees. Anna walked at the center of the group again, her small figure leading them without effort. But the forest was not quiet for long. As they moved, a low rumble spread through the ground. The trees shook, leaves raining down. From the shadows, larger shapes appeared. Not thin and tall like before, but massive. Hunters of the dark. Their bodies were shaped like beasts, but made of shadow and root, eyes glowing like burning coals. They're bigger, one officer breathed. They're stronger, Ryan said grimly. The creatures growled, the sound rolling like thunder. They began to circle, slow and patient. Run! Myra shouted. The crew broke into a sprint, weapons firing behind them. Bolts of light tore into the hunters, slowing them but not stopping them. The forest seemed to close in, roots twisting up to block their path. Anna ran with surprising speed, her bare feet finding every step with ease. She called out as they ran. Stay near me. The forest will not let me fall. The hunters roared, shaking the trees. One lunged, crashing through the branches. Myra turned and fired, the blast striking it in the chest. Its body tore apart into smoke, but two more came from the side. The crew stumbled through mud and roots, fighting to keep pace. At last they burst into another clearing, smaller than the first. Sunlight filtered through the branches above, faint but real. The hunters stopped at the edge. They paced back and forth, growling, but did not step into the light. The crew collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. Myra stood tall, her weapon still raised. Her eyes went to Anna. Why do they fear the light? Anna looked at her with glowing eyes. Because light does not belong to them. The forest is theirs in the dark, but not here. The hunters faded slowly, their shapes sinking back into the shadows. The forest grew quiet again, but the silence was heavy with warning. Ryan finally spoke, his voice tense. Captain, we can't stay here. Every step we take, it gets worse. If we take her, the forest fights harder. If we leave her, she stays trapped. Lyra looked at Anna sadly. She's just a child. Anna's eyes shifted between them. Her small voice was steady. The forest gave me life. It will not let me go. But if you try, it will keep hunting. Myra's jaw tightened. She looked at her crew tired, shaken, but alive. Then she looked at Anna, calm and glowing like a flame in the shadows. No child should be left behind, Myra said firmly. Even if the forest hunts us, we will find a way. Anna said nothing. She only looked back at the trees, her eyes reflecting both sorrow and wonder. The wilderness was not finished with them. The hunters would return. But so would their courage. The morning after the attack, the crew was weary but determined. The fire from the night before had burned to ash, leaving only a thin line of smoke rising into the pale sky. Captain Myra stood at the edge of the clearing, watching the forest. The silence was heavier than ever, like a weight pressing down on her chest. Ryan walked up beside her, scanning with his device. The signal is stronger here. It's not just the girl. Something beneath the ground is sending waves. Something old. Myra frowned. You mean the signal that brought us here didn't come from Anna? Ryan shook his head. It came from her and something else. Maybe both at once. The thought made Myra uneasy. She turned back toward the crew. Anna sat quietly on a root, her glowing eyes watching them. Lyra sat near her, speaking gently, but the child answered little. She seemed distant, as though part of her mind was elsewhere. We move, Myra ordered. Anna will guide us. The girl led them through winding paths. The forest shifted again, branches groaning as though alive. After hours of walking, they reached a valley where vines covered strange shapes rising from the ground. Stone walls. Broken towers. The ruins of a structure lay hidden beneath the forest. It was massive, built long before the crew was born. Carvings covered the stones, half buried under moss. Ryan's eyes widened. This is ancient. Not human. Alien. The crew stepped closer, brushing aside leaves and vines. The carvings told a story in pictures. Myra traced one with her hand. Look. These are humans. Figures of men and women were carved into the stone, standing under tall trees. Some lifted their hands in peace. Others were shown fighting shadow creatures. Lyra gasped softly. It's the same as what we saw before. The forest has always fought against strangers. Anna walked into the center of the ruins, her small feet stepping lightly over the cracked floor. She placed her hand on one of the carvings. The forest remembers, she said quietly. It remembers all who came here. Long ago, humans fell from the sky, just like you. They tried to tame it. They tried to burn it. But the forest is older than fire. Her words carried a strange weight, as though she was not only speaking but also repeating the voice of something greater. Myra's voice was steady. Anna, how do you know this? Anna turned, her glowing eyes calm. Because the forest told me. I hear its voice when I sleep. It is never silent. The crew exchanged uneasy looks. Ryan crouched near a broken pillar, scanning the ground. Captain, this structure was built with power. Something is still active beneath it. Maybe a core. Maybe the heart of this wilderness. Myra asked, do you think that's why Anna can survive here? Yes, Ryan said. The forest itself is alive. Not just plants and creatures, something greater. And Anna is tied to it. Anna looked at them, her small face calm. When my parents crashed, they died. The forest found me. It gave me food, water, shelter. But it also chained me. If I leave, it grows weak. If I leave, it becomes angry. Lyra stepped forward, her voice breaking. So you're saying you're part of it now? Anna nodded slowly. I am both. Human and wilderness. Silence fell over the crew. They all felt the truth in her words. The debate came soon after. One of the officers spoke sharply. Captain, we can't take her. If she's bound to this place, removing her could unleash those creatures across the galaxy. But she's a child, Lyra argued. Would you leave her here forever? Alone? We don't know what she is anymore, the officer replied. She might be dangerous. Myra raised her hand, silencing them. Her face was hard but her voice steady. She is still human. That matters. We don't abandon our own. Anna looked down, her small voice soft. If you take me, the forest will follow. Its roots will stretch. Its hunters will not stop. The wilderness will not forgive. Her words shook them more than any weapon could. The ground trembled suddenly. The ruins groaned as if waking from long sleep. Vines tightened, crawling across the stones. From the shadows of the valley, creatures began to form again, dark, thin, their eyes glowing faint. They're coming back, Ryan said. Myra grabbed Anna's hand. Then we move now. The crew ran, weaving through the ruins as shadows rose from the ground. The forest roared, branches cracking, roots bursting up to block their path. Anna clung to Myra, her face calm even as the world shook around them. It does not want me to go, she whispered. The crew fought through. Their weapons flashed, light cutting down shadow after shadow. But the creatures kept coming, endless, born from the darkness itself. At last they burst from the valley, climbing a hill of twisted roots. The ruins fell behind them, swallowed again by the forest. They collapsed at the top, gasping for air. The forest around them groaned but fell silent once more. As night came, the crew set camp again, though none found rest. Myra sat apart, staring at Anna. The girl looked at her with calm eyes. You cannot save me without angering the wilderness. Myra's jaw tightened. Maybe. But I will not abandon you. We will find a way. Ryan approached, his face worn. Captain, we have to think of the ship. Of the colony waiting for us. If we bring her aboard, the forest may try to follow. Myra shook her head. And if we leave her, what does that make us? What kind of people turn away from a child who begged for help? The fire crackled weakly between them. The question hung heavy in the air, with no answer strong enough to end it. Later that night, Anna sat awake, humming softly to herself. The forest whispered around them, leaves rustling though no wind blew. She looked at the sleeping crew and whispered words only the trees seemed to hear. I do not want to be alone anymore. But if they take me, you will be angry. What should I do? The forest gave no answer, only silence that felt alive. Anna closed her eyes. Her glow dimmed slightly as she whispered again. I want to be human. I want to belong. The wilderness stirred faintly, and the shadows shifted at the edge of the camp. The crew slept uneasy, unaware that the hardest choice of all was waiting for them at dawn. The morning came with a heavy mist. The forest was quiet, too quiet, as though it was holding its breath. The crew stirred slowly, each person tense from the night before. The fire had burned low, and smoke rose into the damp air. Captain Myra stood first. She scanned the trees, hand resting on her weapon. The silence was worse than the growls of the night. It was a silence that warned of danger. Anna was awake, sitting near the edge of the camp. Her eyes glowed faintly, her small hands pressed against the ground. She seemed to listen to something deep beneath the soil. Lyra moved toward her, speaking gently. Anna, what is it? Anna looked up, her voice calm but soft. The forest knows you want to leave. It is waiting. If we try to run, it will chase us. Myra came closer. Then we have no choice but to be faster. The crew prepared quickly. Ryan checked the scanners, his brow furrowed. Captain, the signal is pulling us toward the northern cliffs. I think there's an opening there, maybe a path out. Then that's where we go, Myra said firmly. The mist thickened as they marched. Each step felt heavy, as though roots pulled at their boots. The trees seemed to close in, branches bending overhead, making the path dark even though the sun was rising. Anna walked between Myra and Lyra. She was quiet, but her eyes flickered with light each time the forest stirred. After an hour, the first sound came. A low groan, deep and hollow, rolling through the ground. The crew froze. Ryan whispered, "It knows." The forest came alive. Roots tore upward, snapping like whips. Vines lashed down from above, wrapping around weapons and gear. Dark figures began to crawl out of the mist, their glowing eyes opening one by one. Run! Myra shouted. The crew broke into a sprint. Weapons fired, blasts of light cutting through the fog. Shadows hissed, dissolving when struck, only to reform again farther ahead. Anna held Myra's hand as they ran. Her voice was steady despite the chaos. It does not want me to go. It will follow until the end. Myra gritted her teeth. Then we keep running. The cliffs rose in the distance, tall walls of gray stone. A narrow crack split the face, just wide enough for them to slip through. Hope sparked in their hearts as they pushed forward. But the forest struck harder. A massive root burst from the ground, blocking their way. It was as thick as a ship's hull, its surface twisting with green light. Ryan fired at it, but the blasts only scorched the bark. The root groaned, spreading wider. Lyra pulled Anna close. What do we do? Anna's glowing eyes locked on the barrier. She stepped forward, her small hand reaching out. The root shuddered, pausing as though listening. She whispered something in a language none of them knew. For a moment, the massive barrier slowed, the green glow dimming. Go, Anna said, her voice soft but urgent. It will let us pass for now. Myra grabbed her hand again. You're coming too. The crew rushed past the trembling root, slipping into the narrow crack of the cliff. Inside, the air was cool and still. The passage twisted downward, stone walls damp with water. Their footsteps echoed softly as they hurried. Behind them, the growls of the wilderness grew fainter, but none felt safe. Ryan studied the readings. Captain, this tunnel leads deep under the forest. There's energy here, the same as the ruins. I think it connects to whatever power controls the wilderness. Myra's voice was sharp. So we're running straight into its heart. Yes, Ryan said grimly. The crew fell silent. They knew there was no turning back. Anna walked calmly, her glow faintly lighting the path. The forest hides its heart deep below. If we find it, you will understand why it holds me. Hours passed as they descended. The air grew heavier, filled with the scent of earth and stone. Strange carvings lined the walls, glowing faintly with green light. The pictures showed humans standing beside trees, their arms raised in both worship and fear. Lyra whispered, "It was never just a forest. It was always something greater." Finally, they reached a vast cavern. The ceiling stretched high above, glittering with faint lights like stars. At the center of the cavern rose a massive tree, its roots sinking deep into the ground, its trunk glowing with soft green energy. The heart of the wilderness. The crew stopped in awe. The tree pulsed like it was alive, each beat echoing like a heartbeat through the cavern. The ground itself seemed to breathe. Anna walked forward slowly. "This is where it began. This is why I cannot leave." The tree shifted, its roots rising. A low voice filled the cavern, not with words but with feeling, anger, sorrow, and warning. The crew felt it inside their chests, heavy and overwhelming. Anna spoke quietly, her voice trembling for the first time. "It says I belong to it now. That if I go, it will weaken and die. If I go, the wilderness will rise in rage." Myra stepped forward. "You are human. You are not its prisoner." Anna looked at her with sad eyes. "But if I leave, many will suffer. The wilderness will not stop at this world. It will spread. It will follow." The cavern rumbled. Shadows crawled from the walls, gathering in the darkness. Ryan aimed his scanner at the tree. "Captain, this thing is a living network. It controls every vine, every root, every shadow. If we destroy it, maybe Anna will be free." Myra's eyes hardened. "Then we do it?" Anna shook her head. "If you destroy it, the forest will die. Every creature, every tree, everything will wither." "Is that what you want?" The crew froze. The choice was heavier than any battle. Suddenly, the cavern shook violently. The roots lashed out, slamming into the ground near them. Shadows surged forward, their glowing eyes filling the cavern. Myra raised her weapon. "We don't have time to argue. Move." The crew opened fire, blasts of light striking the shadows. Ryan planted charges along the roots, shouting over the noise. "If this thing is the core, we'll bring it down." Anna screamed, her small voice cutting through the chaos. "Stop. You don't understand. If you kill it, you kill me too." The crew froze for a heartbeat, stunned. Myra turned to her. "What do you mean?" Anna's eyes glowed brighter, tears running down her cheeks. "It gave me life when I had none. My breath is its breath. My heart is its heart. If it dies, I die too." The cavern shook again. Roots crashed down, forcing the crew back. Myra clenched her jaw, torn between duty and the girl before her. She saw fear in Anna's glowing eyes, but also a deep truth. The captain's voice rang out. "We hold our ground. Nobody acts until I decide." The crew formed a circle around Anna, weapons blazing at the shadows closing in. The heart of the wilderness pulsed faster, the cavern trembling as though ready to collapse. And in that moment, Myra knew the final choice was upon them: save the child or save the galaxy. The ship Aurora moved through the stars, leaving the wild green planet far behind. Inside its steel walls, the crew tried to rest after the long struggle. They had fought storms, shadows, and fear itself, yet they had carried the child Anna away from the wilderness that had held her all her life. Now, for the first time, she was among people of her own kind. Anna sat by the wide glass window in the observation deck. Beyond the glass stretched endless night, filled with lights of faraway suns. She pressed her small hands against the glass and watched the stars with bright wonder. It was quiet there, and she liked the quiet. For so many years the forest had whispered to her, called to her, sometimes comforted and sometimes trapped her. Now she heard only the soft hum of the ship's engines. Myra entered the room, walking slowly. She was tired, but her eyes were still strong. She stood beside Anna and followed her gaze to the stars. "Do you like it here?" Myra asked. Anna nodded. "It feels big. Bigger than the forest. But also safer." She paused and added in a softer voice, "Though I think the forest can still feel me." Myra looked at her with calm eyes. "Maybe it can. But you are free now. No one will chain you to that place again." Anna turned her head. "What if the forest comes for me? What if it comes for all of you?" Myra placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we face it together. You are not alone anymore." Later, the crew gathered in the main hall. Ryan the engineer leaned against the wall, his uniform still worn from the struggle. Lyra the medic sat with her arms folded, watching Anna closely as if expecting the child to faint at any moment. The rest of the crew looked uneasy. One officer spoke first. "Captain, we have to think about what we brought aboard. That forest was alive in a way we did not understand. What if this child is carrying a piece of it with her? What if danger follows?" Ryan frowned. "She is a child. She did not ask for that life. We could not leave her." Another officer shook his head. "Maybe not. But what if she is the key to the wilderness? What if it hunts us across the stars because we took her?" The room grew tense. Myra looked at Anna, who sat quietly on a bench. She was listening, but she did not seem afraid. She seemed to understand far more than her young age suggested. Finally, Anna spoke. "The wilderness is part of me. I cannot change that. But I am also human. I want to stay human. I do not want to be alone again." The room fell silent. Her words were simple, yet they carried weight. Myra stood and faced the crew. She is right. She may carry something of the wilderness inside her, but she is still one of us. We will not fear her. We will guide her. That is what it means to be human. We help each other, even when it is hard. Lyra sighed and nodded. Then she will need care. She has lived too long with only the forest to raise her. We must teach her everything. Ryan smiled faintly. Then we teach her about stars, engines, and the sound of music instead of shadows. Anna smiled too, for the first time since leaving the planet. Days passed as the Aurora traveled. Anna began to explore the ship. She learned how doors opened with buttons, how food came from machines, and how water could flow clear from silver pipes. She laughed when she tasted sweet fruit from the ship's stores, so different from the bitter roots of the forest. She asked questions about every sound, every tool, every light that blinked. But at night, when she lay in the soft bed of her small room, she sometimes whispered to herself. In her dreams, she could still feel the pull of the wilderness. She saw the trees bending, the shadows moving, the ground shaking as if alive. She wondered if it longed for her return or if it mourned her absence. One night Myra found her awake and staring at the ceiling. "Can't sleep?" the captain asked gently. Anna shook her head. "I hear it in my dreams. It wants me back." Myra sat by her side. "The forest may want you, but you have a choice now. You are not trapped. Remember that." Anna turned to look at her. "Do you think I will always belong to two worlds?" Myra thought carefully. "Perhaps. But maybe that makes you special. You can understand things no one else can. You are proof that humans can survive even where no one thinks it is possible." Anna listened and slowly smiled again. Myra's words gave her strength. Weeks later, as the Aurora neared a safe colony, the crew prepared for arrival. The station lights glowed ahead, and humans waited to greet them. For Anna, it would be the first time seeing many people at once. She was nervous, but she was also excited. As the ship docked, Myra held her hand. "Are you ready?" Anna nodded firmly. "Yes. I am not lost anymore." Together they stepped out into the bright lights of the colony. People turned, staring at the small girl with shining eyes. Whispers passed through the crowd, questions about who she was and where she came from. But Myra stood tall beside her, and Anna felt safe. Though the wilderness was far behind, its memory lived within her. She knew the forest might one day reach across the stars, calling her name again. But now she was no longer a lonely child crying in the dark. She was Anna, the child of two worlds, and she had found her place among humans. The stars stretched on, endless and full of mystery. For Anna, it was only the beginning of a new journey.